Hey, good morning, and welcome to Time in the Word. We're continuing our look on this Monday morning at character traits or character builders, as I like to call them. And this morning I thought I would start with a story. Shortly after World War II came to a close, Europe began picking up the pieces. Much of the old country had been ravaged by war and was in ruins. Perhaps the saddest sight of all was that of orphaned children starving in the streets of war-torn cities. Early one chilly morning, an American soldier was making his way back to the barracks in London. As he turned the corner in his jeep, he saw a boy with his nose pressed to the window of a pastry shop. Inside, the baker was kneading dough for a fresh batch of donuts. The hungry boy stared in silence, watching every move. The soldier pulled his jeep to the curb, stopped, got out, and walked quietly to where the little boy was standing. Through the steamed up window, he could see mouth-watering morsels as they were being pulled from the oven, piping hot. The boy salivated and released a slight groan as he watched the baker place them onto a glass-enclosed counter ever so carefully. The soldier's heart went out to the unnamed orphan as he stood beside him. "Son, would you like some of those?" The boy was startled. He stammered, "Yeah, I would." The American soldier then stepped inside and bought a dozen, put them in a bag, and walked back to where the lad was standing in the foggy cold of the London morning. He smiled, held out the bag, and said simply, "Here you are." As he turned to walk away, he felt a tug on his coat. He looked back and heard the child ask quietly, "Mister, are you God?" Giving is what helps people see the Lord in us. Today, as you might have guessed, we are talking about generosity, the idea of being generous. A well-known cliche says that when we die, the person with the most toys wins. Maybe you've heard that before. I think a lot of people live according to this principle. They spend their time and their passions and their resources accumulating things. But the Bible reminds us in Ecclesiastes 5:11 that when good things increase, those who consume them increase. So what is the advantage to their owners except to look on? I believe God has given us as his followers a different path. Principles that really work and lead to genuine satisfaction. Instead of collecting things for ourselves, the Bible tells us that blessings and prosperity come to those who are generous. Jesus stressed this principle when he said, "Give and it will be given to you. They will pour into your lap a good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over." As we think about giving and being generous, I would ask us this morning to think about water. The act of watering or pouring out ourselves means that we're giving to others out of the substance of our own lives. When we pour into others, when we water others out of our resources, then we ourselves are watered. We ourselves are blessed. Paul writes it this way in 2 Corinthians 9:11. He says, "You will be enriched in every way so that you can be generous on every occasion. And through us, your generosity will result in thanksgiving to God." I think we see throughout these scriptures, the Old and the New Testament, that generosity is praised, that it is encouraged. And we see that in God's example and how he gives to us. Can any one of us doubt the showers of blessings that have fallen into our lives? God has poured out to me and he's poured out to you far above that which we deserve and can oftentimes even imagine. In light of what God has generously given to us, can't we not, as followers of Jesus, help but be generous too. So what can we do to be generous? What are some things that we can think of on this Monday morning? Well, I want to share with you some principles that I think might help. Number one, start paying attention to the needs around you. Now, I realize that many of you already do that. That there are a lot of people that I know that are very generous people. And so if you're already doing this, then that's tremendous, and I want to encourage you to keep on. But for me and maybe for some others, these are good reminders. So what is it? Start paying attention to the needs around you. When you're having conversations with others, become a detective of their needs, even when they're not spoken. Recognizing needs is a skill that we can develop by learning to pay close attention to the people around us, to read between the lines, to determine what they're looking for, what their needs are. And once those needs are detected, then we can find ways to meet those needs or rally others who can. That's a good step in being a generous person. The second thing we can do is to be excited about giving to the Lord's work in the church and in other groups. Now, again, I know many people who do this very well already. And again, I want to say thank you. I have been the beneficiary of a lot of that, and I want to say thank you. And churches I've worked at have been a beneficiary of that too. Well, I think it's a good reminder for us all. Be excited about giving to the Lord's work in the church and in other groups. We are called to be cheerful givers. We know that passage. And an excited giver is normally a generous giver. So how do we find that excitement? Here's what I think. Know what's going on in the ministries and or the charities that you support. Find out what's happening if you don't already know. See the successes. See how God is working in the lives of people as a result of the ministries that you support. Let that excitement, let the joy of that success excite you and inspire you and challenge you. Know that your giving matters. Know that what you're doing makes a difference. Nothing, I think, is more exciting and a stimulus to give more than to see how much impact what you've already given has had. So I would encourage you and me to be excited about giving to the Lord's work in the church and other groups, to know what's going on, to celebrate that success, and let that be a motivation to continue to give generously. The third thing that I thought about and looked at as I was thinking about generosity this week is to don't think of generosity as being nice. That sounds kind of odd, but let me unpack that a little bit. Becoming a giving person isn't about being cordial and pleasant. It's about making people a priority. People have to matter to us. And I think as we look at generous people that we know, I think we see that that bears out. It doesn't mean that you have to become a pushover. It doesn't mean that you can never say no. It's okay to do that. It's right to do that. But a generous person is one who sees the needs of people and doesn't try to do everything, but does try to do what he or she can do to make a difference. A generous person sees people, listens to the prompting of the Holy Spirit, and responds to meet what needs he or she can't meet, not feeling the obligation to meet every need. And then the last thing I wanted to share with you today, and there are lots of other things that I read or ran across, but I thought I would share forward. Here's the fourth one. That's to pray for the chance to be a blessing through giving. That's an important thing too. Ask the Lord for chances to show generosity. Ask the Lord to give you opportunities to demonstrate love and giving and caring. And ask Him to provide the resources so that you can do that. As you do, I think you'll find a generous spirit welling up in you. Well, I want to close with this quote. John MacArthur once said this. I think it's important for us to hear again on this Monday. God made all of His creation to give. He made the sun, the moon, the stars, the clouds, the earth, the plants. He made them all to give. He also designed His supreme creation, man, to give. But fallen man is the most reluctant giver in all of God's creation. The challenge for us is to be generous in giving. As God has given to us, let's be generous in giving and sharing with others. Again, thank you for all of you who have done that and are doing that. That is an amazing blessing, and I want to say thank you. And for me and for everybody, let's be challenged to be generous as God has been generous to us. Hey, hope you have a great day today. Chris will be back again on Wednesday. Thank you for joining us in Time in the Word. Until next time, may you be blessed and be a blessing to others.